All right, so welcome. And tonight what we're going to do is talk to loved ones on the other side, clairvoyantly, to start. And then we'll shift to all that is. And just to recap, because some of you are new, basically I've been a channel of all that is since I was born. And what that means is I've had a conversation in my head. I have been carrying this on. Whenever I have a question, I ask a question in my head and I receive an answer. The situation was that I thought everybody was doing this and I didn't realize they weren't until later. And then I'd start sharing this and decided I needed to not share it because I was told, how could I possibly know those things? That was none of my business. So I did, so I went quiet. But now, obviously, I'm not quiet anymore. And so, to me, what they have told me is they are here to bring through information for our growth and expansion of consciousness. They want us to make this a better place for us if we want that for ourselves. So they are offering assistance of helping us become more enlightened if we choose to do it. But we have to ask. It doesn't just happen. They will stand back and not interfere. But if you ask a question, they'll come forward and give you an answer to help you understand how to move ahead. Does that make sense? Okay. So, and beyond channeling this information, which to me is a conversation, I also clairvoyantly see, so 6th chakra, so channeling 7th chakra to the 8th, clairvoyance 6th chakra. So what that means is seeing. I also feel, I also hear. I'm telepathic with animals, people, plants, planets. And so what we're going to do tonight is start with the clairvoyance, talking to loved ones on the other side, because it has a very different flavor from all that is. All that is, they're philosophical, right? Clairvoyance is practical. It gives you answers that you can implement quickly. What all that is offers are answers that you contemplate and then move ahead with. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. All right, so who would like to volunteer? Would you? All right. Okay. All right. Okay, so if you can just tell me the name of the person that you'd like to talk to, and then I will clue in. Now, sometimes I close my eyes, sometimes I don't. I move my hand around and feel the person sometimes not. It all depends on the exact person and situation.
Can I ask for 2 people?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So why don't you say the name of the person that you'd like to talk to, and we'll go from there.
Bob.
If you could repeat it a few times.
Bob.
Okay, and what do you want to know from him?
I want to know how his passage was and how he's doing. And I would like to know if there's anything I can offer to help him in assistance.
He says it wasn't as bumpy as he thought it would be. He thought it was going to be a rough ride, and it wasn't. He says it's kind of like you get on a roller coaster and you think you're going to be scared, but instead it's more like woo. And he said it wasn't totally woo. It was a little bit, it took his breath away in the beginning. He says the light was brighter than he thought it would be. He says he was overcome by it. And do you know if he had a dog when he was younger? Because he's showing me a dog there.
I don't know.
Well, there is a dog. There's a dog around his feet. And he says he was welcomed by this dog. Mm-hmm. And so he didn't... it immediately made him feel like he was at home. And he says the air is much clearer over there. He says you don't have to worry about pollution. That's nice. And he says that's good for him. He's patting his chest and he's saying it's really a lot better for me over here. I don't have to worry so much anymore. Mm-hmm. Do you know if he was worrying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He couldn't swallow, he couldn't eat, he had lots of problems for a long time.
Well, that's why he's happy he can breathe then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he says, don't worry your pretty little face about anything.
I was just Pamalicious.
Oh, you were? That's cute.
I know it.
Because you cared for him.
Mm-hmm.
He says you tucked him in practically. Mm-hmm. He says not many people get that kind of a send-off with so much love. Mm-hmm. So you must have been there close to the end.
I was there at the very end, yeah.
Yeah, he says, don't you worry. All the people on the other side that he's seen so far seem to be decent folk, he says. He says he doesn't have any complaints so far. He keeps saying, so far. I think he's testing it out a bit. Was he kind of a tester? Or?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Explorer, I would say.
Yeah, because it's like he doesn't want to give a definitive, it's fine over here. He wants to let you know, in case he figures something else out, he's not going to make a general statement. He says he could, but it wouldn't be right if he did. So what else do you want to know from him?
Is there anything you'd like me to know?
Did you, was he incontinent in the end?
Oh, yeah.
Because he's showing me you don't have to deal with those anymore. Those pads.
Oh.
He says that wasn't pretty for anybody. So he says, all in all, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and he wants you to know, just keep your heart open, because there's nothing to be afraid of. He thought there could be lions and tigers and bears. But he says there weren't. And it's worked out pretty well. And he's not that religious, is that true? I mean, he's not showing me any religious symbols. Was he?
He said he was, but he didn't have that trust or faith type thing, but he kind of did the verbiage.
Well, he's not showing me, so for example, if somebody crossed over and they were traditionally religious, then they could start showing me images that they'd whip up out of a belief system. He's not showing me images that are coming from a belief system. He's much more matter of fact what's in front of him than a belief. So would you say that he was not as involved, wrapped up in a belief?
Correct.
Yeah, he says that's better for him. He says it's better not to be taken over by somebody else's ideas. He's a pretty level-headed guy.
Yes. Yeah. Salt of the earth.
Yeah. So.
Nice.
Good. All right. Anything else about him, or we?
That's good. I'm glad that he's passed and had a smooth sailing.
Yeah. He says nothing to be concerned about.
Good.
Okay.
Okay.
So now you have somebody else?
Yes. Sherry. Sherry.
Did she have a big laugh?
She did.
She's showing me she has a big laugh inside of her. She says you can never have enough laughter. So what do you want to know from her?
How is her passing?
She says they took her out on a gurney kind of a thing. They did? How did they do that? They just took her out of that. I mean, that's what she's showing me. They took her out on a gurney.
I did. Well, when she passed, I mean, I undressed her and then dressed her appropriately, and discovered she had a lot of, she had gotten shingles, and we didn't even know it until I lifted her up, and I didn't realize how much pain she was in because she was on morphine. And so once I dressed her, and all of a sudden she just looked young again. Her hair color changed to darker, and she just
What color hair did she have?
dark. But she had gray hair.
But before, dark hair?
Mm-hmm.
Because the image she's showing me is that she has the laughter of somebody who you could imagine to be redheaded.
Mm.
That kind of vivaciousness inside of her heart. So what do you want to know from her?
I miss her. I want her to know that how much I miss her, and what she would like me to know. Is there anything she would like to tell me about the other side? Because we talked about it frequently.
She says there are gardens, you can plant things, and she likes that idea. Was she a gardener?
Uh-huh.
She says the flowers can be so beautiful. And you can line them up in rows, and if you don't want rows, you don't have to have rows. And she says you can really kind of be like a cook in a chef in a kitchen with the experience of growing and manifesting. She says it's simple. It's simple. You just want a garden, you get a garden. You don't have to go pay somebody for a plot and deliver the dirt. And she says all those steps you don't have to go through. You just say you want a garden, and bang, you got a garden. And so she wants you to know that makes life a lot easier for her.
Mm-hmm. And she was an expert chef, actually.
Okay, well that's why she's comparing it to cooking, right?
Yeah. Oh, lovely.
But I like her. She's a lively soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's a mother of her church. She's very, a lot of people loved Sherry.
Okay. Because she has a big heart.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why she did her gardening and cooking, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like she's supplying things for people. She says, yeah, you're getting me. It's like, okay. So what else?
Is there anything she would like me to know or like me to do for her here?
She says, you've done enough. You put her away. You cleaned up after her. She says, how could you possibly think there was anything more? She loves you very much.
I know she said she loved me. She fell in love with me faster than she's ever fallen in love with anybody. And so, yeah.
I'm going to ask her, why is that, Sherry? She says, because you have a big heart. And she says, when two hearts get together, they go like this. And they vibrate light. And that's what you did. And she says, and that is never going to stop.
Thank you.
And don't you forget it, she says. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So would anybody else like to talk to somebody? Yes. Come on up. Okay, so now we're going to do a clairvoyant reading of somebody who's on the other side, right? Somebody you know and love.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My Uncle Jim, he passed a few months ago.
Okay.
And I just want to know if he's there. I felt him after he passed. I felt like this incredible energy that he was happy.
Okay.
But I just want to know.
Okay, so why don't you say his full name for me a few times?
Jim.
Did he live in the country? Because he's showing me images of kind of somebody who would stand and lean on something, like lean on a rake or lean on like somebody who's very comfortable standing on the earth.
I know they lived in the desert in Arizona, and he did like to be outdoors.
Yeah, because he's very definitely showing me an image being at home, standing on the earth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what do you want to know from him?
I guess I want to know that he's okay, because he suffered a lot at the end.
He's saying, you don't know suffering. He says he handled it. He doesn't want you to think he didn't handle it. He's got kind of a male attitude about it. Like he wants you to know that you shouldn't feel sorry for him because he could handle it and he did handle it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, well, seeing him the way he was at the end, it really shook me up. I was there right before he passed, and he was suffering. And so...
But he says, to you he was suffering, to him he was dying. Mm-hmm. In other words, in his way he views the world, mm-hmm. that's how you die. Mm-hmm. He had the idea that in order to get through to the other side, you have to suffer. And so he says it was hard for you to see it, but he expected it. Mm-hmm. Was he like a veteran or something? Mm-hmm. Because he's comparing it to, like if you went to war, you'd have to deal with stuff. Mm-hmm. And you just know, you don't expect war to be fun, right? Mm-hmm. So he didn't expect this to be fun.
Did he hear me at the end when I was telling him things about how I felt about him?
He says you'd come and you'd go. In other words, he would hear you for a minute and then he'd drift.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's why I questioned it. I didn't know. I just wanted him to know I loved him, and he made my life so much better.
He says, how could he not know that? He loved you. Kind of like, not exactly like a daughter, but you were close in his heart.
He treated me that way.
Yeah.
And I didn't see him a whole lot, but from growing up, seeing him and the way he treated me better than any of my family members. And that always meant a lot to me.
Well, he says that's just because they didn't see your value, and he did.
No, they didn't.
He says you were like a shining star.
That's really neat.
And he says when you got around him, you shone.
That's how I felt.
Yeah. And then when he saw you shine, he wanted to make sure you knew it.
Yes, he did. He did, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah.
It made such a difference in my life.
Yeah. See, so does that help?
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
Very much so. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So does one other person want to come on up? Okay. So if you could say the name of the first one.
Maxine.
Did she have a problem breathing or with her throat in the end? She's showing
breathing.
Breathing. Because she's showing me she's having trouble going like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what do you want to know from Maxine?
Is she happy now?
She says there was some unfinished business when she crossed. And paperwork. She's showing me paperwork. And she'd like that to be complete. When did she die?
She died 11 years ago. I think it was 10 or 11 years ago.
Okay. Well, in her mind, things are not complete on that. There's just...
They moved from the United States to Australia.
Okay.
So that might have been true.
Yeah. So she's just, in her mind, she's still a little bit fixated on completion. So what we can do for her is let her know that she can complete right now if she'd like to. Would you like to let her know?
I would
that?
like to, yes, I would like to let her know now.
She says she wishes somebody told her that before. Because she's showing me pieces of paper in piles.
Yeah, that's her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she says if somebody just told her that she could, instead of having all these piles that she's fixated on, she could just like burn them, be done. Because that's what I'm showing her. I'm showing her she can be done.
Okay.
And because otherwise she could be fixated for a long time to come. And that wouldn't be very good, right?
No.
She says, okay, if you say I can clear off the table, then I'll clear off the table.
She can clear off the table.
Okay. Good. All right, so you had somebody else?
Lori Gill. Lori Gill.
So she's showing me that she kind of, when she died, she screamed. It was hard on her.
Very.
Was she in bed? She's showing me in bed and then screaming.
Yeah.
Okay. She said it was really hard. She did not expect that one. And what happened? Why?
She was sick for about a year and a half. So yeah, it wasn't something anybody expected.
So she was younger, because she showed
50.
me not that old. Okay. But she expected fully to live longer than that. just
Oh
so you know.
yes.
So what do you want to know from her?
I want to know that she's okay, that her children are fine.
She says she doesn't feel okay. So what we can do is have her kind of turn around and see the light a little bit more,
Okay.
so that she can feel bathed in it. Because she's been kind of reenacting being in bed and screaming. It's been. She says it took her so much by surprise. It almost felt like she felt gypped, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how she approached it, that she felt gypped. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And
I was there in April. She passed on in September.
so do you know what I mean by her feeling gypped, her feeling angry, upset?
That she should have lived longer.
Right,
She mentioned that to me when I was there.
right. So that's what she's been fixated on. See, there's no time on the other side. And so it's really easy to get stuck in a loop and to keep going over something over and over again. So if you fixate on something happy, you can be stuck there. If you fixate on something difficult, you could be stuck there. So would you like to help her see more light, to turn
Yes.
around? Okay, so let's ask her, and her name again?
Lori.
Lori. Lori, let's go ahead. Lori, I'm going to show you the light that's right behind you. You've just been she's been facing the image of what it was like when she died. And what we're going to do is just suggest that if she'd like, she can turn around and face the light and feel the warmth. She says she's known the warmth was there. She's felt that for some time, but she just didn't know she could turn around and go into it more. Okay? She says, well, that feels really good. Nobody told me about that. Well, I know, I see a whole lot of people around her, so I know she's had support. It's like all these witnesses have been standing there waiting for her to turn around. She just couldn't hear them because she kept hearing her own screaming. So she says, finally. So this is a good thing. This is a good day for Lori,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It just shows, see, since they don't have a sense of time, today can be a really good day. And it can wash away the screams. Yeah, she says, about time, about time. So she's telling me she's going to let the light bathe her quite a bit now. And
Good.
she's going to change her ways. Because now she's saying, okay, now I see what I was doing. I didn't get it. I thought that was my reality. She thought that she was still going through that scene.
Wow.
And so we're just educating her. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, it was Mama and daughter, 16 hours apart. They passed away.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Welcome. So you really can heal people from the other side, from here to there. Everybody thinks, oh, when you get to heaven, you just get healed over there. But if you're stuck in a loop, right, then you don't know what's available to you. There can be all these loved ones everywhere, and you just don't know they're there. You don't know the light's there, because you could be fixated on an image. I had one client whose mother was still cleaning the kitchen counters after being dead for like 20 years. She didn't know. And then we're like, well, have you looked at the light? And she goes like, well, yeah, it's there. I know it's there. Well, wouldn't you like to go to it? Well, I've got to clean the kitchen. And we said, really? Maybe it's clean enough. Let's check out the light. So now we can do a channeling and talk and answer questions about what it's like on the other side from a philosophical standpoint. Does that sound good? Okay. So I just take myself into a light trance quickly and access all that is, and then you can ask away. All right. Okay, who has a question?
And how do you know if somebody you love is stuck, can't move forward? Is there a way to tell?
Question. How do you know if somebody you love is stuck and can't move forward? Is there a way to tell? The energies of your loved one are evident to you if you simply ask. You can ask yourself, what is my loved one up to now? And sense the vibration. If the vibration feels agitated or somehow inept, somehow not accessing source, then you can ask that a beam of light be to the next side, to the side of your loved one. By placing the beam of light there, you see you are allowing your loved one to be closer to it. You are allowing it to become more evident. And then you can suggest, loved one, look at that. There's a beautiful beam of light next to you. And I understand that that light is your light, no one else's. And if you feel like stepping into it and bathing in that light, then I'm wondering how good that might feel. And then your loved one has the choice to do so. In this way, you can assist your loved one in moving on. In other words, you are getting the attention of your loved one. That is often the issue. Often a loved one can be fixated on everyday reality and not notice the light that is there. So by you saying this, and by their listening, because you can ask them to listen to you, you can ask them to pay attention, you can call out their name and say, I love you. Please notice the light. And then see what happens. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Who has a question?
I have a question. It's more about what goes on when we were physically living here, and why sometimes struggles really seem very overwhelming, and sometimes it can be really hard to figure out the purpose and want to keep going. So what kind of advice would that be as far as how to get through a struggle and find meaning?
Question: how do you get through struggles and find meaning in life? You do so by anchoring yourself in this reality. You could say that by putting both of your feet on the ground and firmly planting them there, and saying to yourself, I desire to be here. I am here now. I have come here for a reason. What is that reason? Higher self, what is that reason? Why did I come into this reality when I am experiencing so much pain? And your higher self will say to you, you have a higher goal in mind. And then you ask the question, what is that goal? Your higher self would say, it is to raise yourself up. It is as though you have been walking in puddles and have been facing downwards and looking at the asphalt and saying, what is the purpose for being here? And your higher self is saying, look up. Notice the trees, notice the birds, notice the sky. When you do this, you will feel love in your heart. You will feel reason for being. You had simply forgotten that you are part of the whole. You are not separate from it. When you were looking at the asphalt and feeling lonely, you did not see anything besides darkness. But when you look up and see the sky and feel the warmth of the sun on your back, then you know you are loved. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Can you do that? Can you tell yourself, I will look up now. I will notice nature around me. I will feel surrounded by the love of all that is. Can you do that a little bit more every day?
I know it takes some effort, but yes, I can.
Yes, it takes effort. It takes practice. So if you could, when you awaken each morning, say to yourself, today, I shall open the window and look out and notice a tree and notice the sky, even if it is still dark when you awaken. You can notice something of nature and give thanks for being in this reality. If you can do that every morning for the next 7 to 14 days, you will see a shift. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, that is all. Cool. So was that fun? Yeah. It's fun for me.
What do you see when you're channeling? Do you see anything?
Okay, question. What do I see when I'm channeling? I hear words come in, and then with the words, they sometimes give me an image that unfolds in front of me, and I just have to wait for it to unfold. And the image comes with a feeling. So the feeling directs me to the next group of words and next image. So it's kind of like a checks and balances. And it's really, it teaches you to keep looking. Because when I was really young, I thought I'd get an answer here, but it would have a flavor to it that was different or a little bit judgmental or something. And then I'd find that wasn't all that is talking, that was an influence coming in from the side. So you just kind of have to keep checking. Because if it feels a little bit off, then you have to say, okay, take a moment, shift the energy, move it aside, and let the light come back. So it's a process of checking. Anything?
Do you ever get really tired after you do this?
Question, do I ever get really tired after this? Actually, it feels really good. It's like awakening. I mean, it feels so good to be connected. So it feels like the light's coming through and I'm experiencing the light. So it feels more real than everyday reality going to the store. I mean, this feels more alive to me. But then in a couple hours I need to go to sleep. Because it's kind of like I've cleaned out too in bringing this in. So my little particles of dirt that need to be washed out, they've been washed out. But after you do that, you need to take a bath or a shower or a nap, in my opinion, to have it integrate. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I do. Yeah.
I want to say that I think it's really neat, and I always find that when I get together in groups, we all ask questions that kind of go, oh, yeah. So it's like we all kind of mesh in a certain way, answering and asking the types of questions that we need to hear. So.
It's true, because when we get together in a group, everybody is contributing, right? So just like inside our hand, there's a lot of cells, right? They're all working together to create our hands. It's the same with this group, right? We're all working together to help each other grow. That's the beauty of it. That's why I love it. Doesn't it feel good?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
it's like everybody helped everybody else out.
Do you remember what, afterwards, can you remember what people were asking? And
Afterwards, I remember pretty much, but it's like, you can go through your whole day and then the next day you can't remember what you did. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing, because sometimes I'm concentrating on keeping myself so centered that I'm not listening to the words. I'm just making sure I'm saying the words. So I would say it depends how it's different every time. But sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
is it possible for all of us to develop these types of abilities?
It's totally possible for everybody to develop these abilities. Because when I was little, I just talked to all that is in my head. But then I started meditating when I was 16, and I was an art major. And that was a challenge because I had to get out of the way to bring through the art. So every time I wasn't out of the way, the art was not good. And so that was a practice. And then I trained myself on a daily basis to be clear, and just giving psychic readings to people. I benefit more than anybody else because it's like a clean out for me. So I highly recommend developing your intuitive abilities. And then when you're like on the phone with me doing a session, you get to clean out too, because we are together. When two or more are gathered, there's more strength. And so then you get to be more intuitive, I get to be more intuitive. It's just like you said, asking questions. Everybody helps each other out. Well, the more intuitive we help each other being, breaking through beliefs and just seeing what's in front of us. I mean, it's huge. And everybody can do this. We have this as our birthright. We are meant to be connected to Source. We have just, over time, allowed ourselves to get dirty so that we could learn from having to go through hardships to grow. But we can also grow through love. It's just not likely, because usually pain motivates us. But we can do it. And the more intuitive you are, then you can say, oh, I'm going to pay attention now.
Right.
Yeah.
What about when our emotions kind of get in the way of our intuition? Because I know sometimes I get great clarity, and other times I can tell if I'm a little too emotional. I'm not getting anything clearly. So that's what I feel like I have to ask someone else because my emotions are blocking that.
Yes, our emotions can definitely block our intuition. Because if you have anger, okay, that's you not being centered, right? And you want to pay attention to the anger. It's energy. You want to say, oh, that's giving me a heads up to pay attention somewhere. And then you bring yourself back to center so that you can access your intuition. Because if you are attached to an idea, which is anger, it's like you have a point of view, right, that's intense, then that blocks the truth. Because it's coming from a strong perspective versus a neutral perspective. Yeah.
Are the illusions that, now that like you see the world the way it is, and I think, are the illusions going to get more difficult, to see through? And, the challenges will be harder.
Right. So the question is, are the illusions going to get more difficult to see through with harder challenges?
Yeah, because of the
it's
shift.
more like right now the illusions are more in your face. Mm-hmm. So this is a good thing. The illusions are starting to break down. Haven't you noticed that? But as they're breaking down, all hell's breaking loose.
Right. I mean, like, is it harder as it gets more challenging? It's like, do you question yourself more? Am I really seeing what I'm seeing?
You want to keep questioning yourself. You want to keep saying, what am I seeing? Mm-hmm. Because people who don't want the illusion to break down, they're going to fight to keep it. Mm-hmm. Right? Those are the people who are angry and you run into at the store. But if you keep questioning, then you can break through it. It's like, what am I seeing? What am I seeing? And that's so cool. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. All right.